Okay, so we'll call a meeting to order of the Water Supply Planning Committee of the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District on February 1st. Our three members are here, Karen Paul and Mary Adams and me. So we can start the meeting. So let's first off see if there's any members of the public participating today. Let's see what they have any comments.
If you're participating over your computer, please make sure you use the raise hand feature. If you're participating by phone, make sure you push *9, and that will let me know that you're wanting to make a public comment.
Yeah, there's only 4 attendees, and I doubt that anyone's going to have much comment.
Okay, well, let's bring it back to the board, but I'm going to announce anyway, because whoever the participants are who might have some comment, if you get our attention, I will make room for your comment. So it may not be exactly in the order that we would like, but anyway, if you have comments, I'd like to hear them. The first item, action item is approval of the minutes of the January 4th meeting. Is there any comments on the minutes?
Look good to me.
And I'm going to again remind the public, if they have a comment, please let us know. So anyway, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes. In fact, I'll make the motion because I was there to approve the minutes.
And I will second that motion.
Moved and seconded for approval of the minutes. Let's have a roll call, please.
Yes, Director Riley,
Aye.
Director Paul,
Aye.
Director Adams.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. That's the only action item we have. All the other items are discussion. So let's see where we go. So Dave, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Pure Water Monterey, we just closed out the month of January with a total of 297 acre feet injected, most of which was deep injection well number 1 at 172.6 acre feet, deep injection well number 2 at 116.3 acre feet. So everything's going quite smoothly over there. They've mobilized for the 2 new deep injection wells, and there's not a problem to report. So that's all good news. We did have a group meeting last Wednesday with Cal-Am to keep them up to speed as to what's going on. It was a pretty productive meeting. That's all I have to report on Pure Water.
Can you give us just a brief update on the other wells to expand the well field?
Yeah, so Maureen is on. If you want to give us a quick rundown, Maureen.
Can you hear me?
There we go.
Yes.
Yes.
Standing, sorry, I can't unmute myself. Yeah, they mobilized to start drilling what we call the stabilizing conductor. They got those in, I think week before last. They are expecting to take pipe delivery early. The casing delivery, through a lot of prodding and questioning, we were able to bring that in on schedule. And we expect to begin drilling in earnest end of this month, early March.
Thank you. That's good. Just keep making progress. That's what we're looking for. One question, Dave, I had, which was the Monterey pipeline, the one from Seaside over to Pacific Grove. I'm just curious about one aspect of it. I think the PUC has approved a percentage of used and usefulness. And I don't know whether it's 100% or something less than that, but can you remind me what that
is? Well, it was 70%. I'm thinking it's now at 100%, but I don't know that to be sure. I do see that Ian is on, as well as Tim O'Halloran. But yeah, they only approved 70% into rates. Pending, I think pending the desal project, so it may still be at 70%. I would have to report back to you.
I'm okay for getting a report back. I don't need it right now, but I'm just curious about that number.
Yep.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee on Pure Water Monterey? If not, we'll just move on to this next item, which is an update on the CalAm's Monterey Peninsula Water Supply Project, the desal.
Yeah, the desal component. Again, Ian is on. Ian spoke with Tom Luster at the Coastal Commission last week. Tom reports to me that they're kind of on the same page in that Coastal Commission's got a couple of important items kind of ahead of desal in the queue, so they probably wouldn't be able to get to it until the April-May timeframe. And I'm told that that Ian reported that they were looking probably more like June to be back at the Coastal Commission. So it continues to move forward. I think I reported to you that the supplemental environmental impact report that Tyler Williamson and others were pushing to try to get it on the agenda, and Paul Sciutto was cautioning that there may be a couple of pieces of the project description that need to get updated first, and that they may not be ready to bring it back to their board until March or April. But that's kind of what's going on that front. But if you recall, on the 25th, I was pretty much unable to give you any news on the desal project because we hadn't heard anything for quite some time. But it does look like mid-year they'll be back in front of the Coastal Commission.
Well, can I inquire about the court decision in Salinas, Villarreal?
Yeah, the kind of the twofold court decision was rendered about a week ago, I guess. What would you like to talk about on that?
Well, does it folds into the process that's under consideration by the Coastal Commission for sure.
Yeah, they they ordered the county to prepare better CEQA findings. I guess it would be the way to state it, that they didn't feel that the
Rationale?
yeah, the rationale for approval was well laid out, and so they'll be going back to do so. I don't know what the timeline is on that, though.
I assume that falls on the burden of CalAm to present, or does that burden fall on the county to research?
Well, it was the county's findings, so I would imagine that it falls to the county, but I don't know, Mary, do you
In
know?
that circumstance, certainly the applicant can propose findings, but it's the county's ultimate decision as to what findings are to be made.
Right.
We're going to be discussing this in closed session tomorrow morning.
So we'll leave the closed session alone. I'm just curious about what happens with that decision. What are the steps and who's kind of likely to be in the role? And I appreciate this response just because it adds to my understanding anyway. Are there any other comments from the committee, questions?
Well, just a question for Mary. The Board of Supervisors will be reporting out after the closed session on if there any kind of decision was made on next
Yes,
steps.
yes. I'm sorry to be so vague about it.
Well, no, I understand. Yeah.
It's closed session. I get it. And I'll again remind the public, if there anybody wants to comment, just let us know. So moving on to the next item on activities related to the Seaside Basin.
Yeah, so Director Riley will know more about this than everyone else because he sits on the Water Master. But this is an informational item. Chloride levels have been found in monitoring wells. And then there was retesting that took place early January, and the levels were up. I do see that John Lear is on, so John can chime in. But I think it's Exhibit 4A is a map. And so as you look kind of in the northwest quadrant of that map, you can find FO10 and FO9, which are the two monitoring wells that were detecting seawater intrusion. And I think it's FO10. Let's see. So you see FO10 deep and shallow, which is just north of the boundary of the
Yes.
Seaside Basin.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then FO9 is just inside the boundary,
Let's see.
next to Sentinel well number 3.
Mhm.
What's interesting is there's no evidence in the Sentinel wells closer to the shore, which means it's kind of being pulled down from a northerly direction. John, do you want to add anything to this?
I think that you've got, the situation summed up. The only thing I would add is that you had mentioned that the Fort Ord wells are a shallow and deep couplet wells, and the Sentinel wells are wells that have very, very long screens over the shallow and the deep. And they're not sampled for water quality. They're actually just induction logged. So we're having a meeting of the subset of the technical group and the consultants to kind of discuss all this tomorrow, so we can have information for the board meeting for the water master on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So how much of a concern is this, and has this arisen before? This level of contamination?
This is not. This has not happened before. Historically, the chlorides have not been this high. There are two things you watch for, which is climbing chlorides and then the chloride sodium molar ratio. And if it starts trending, if the chlorides are rising and the molar ratio is going down, it's likely that the source of the chlorides is seawater. This could be the very, very beginning of seawater intrusion. That there is the Paso Robles aquifer is akin to the shallow aquifers in the Salinas Valley that are intruded, and they could be, as Dave said, intrusion coming down. There's not a lot of monitoring wells between the marina area and the Seaside Basin. So it's not really known where that front was or is, if this is in fact that front. So that's the first part of your question, is has this ever happened before? And no, it hasn't. And the second part is it's not yet at the chloride in these wells was very, very low. And so it has gone up, and it has gone up. If you look at the percentage, it's gone up a larger percent than the actual levels of the chloride, where the chlorides are not at a drinking water standard level that would cause concern yet. And they're actually far below that level. It's just that this water was very, very fresh. So if it continues, it gets more concerning. We're changing the monitoring frequency on these wells so we can watch them more. We're making Fort Ord 10. It was an annual monitoring well to a quarterly monitoring well. And it's not as concerning as if it was happening in the deep aquifer, to see it happening in the shallow aquifer, because the deep aquifer is where all of the municipal pumping is, or 80% of the municipal pumping. And is also the Santa Margarita, where all of our water projects are targeting as our reservoir. So the fact that it's in the northern portion of the basin and in the shallow, while you don't want to see this, it's in the least concerning aquifer and the least concerning geographical region of the basin.
And who operates these wells, John?
These are actually PVC 2-inch monitor wells, so they're not pumped. They're
No,
just
I'm sorry, but which entity operates the wells,
as
is responsible for them,
for monitoring them. Is that what you're asking me?
for monitoring them and operating them? Yeah.
Well, they don't pump water. They're not municipal wells. They're just monitor wells. And the district installed the Fort Ord wells in the 80s. And the district, along with the water master, when the water master was formed, the district already had a monitoring network in the Seaside Basin. And then in 2008, the Superior Court from Monterey asked the water master to come up with what they called a monitoring and maintenance plan for the basin. And that then went through and identified a number of other wells in addition to the wells that the district was already monitoring, and brought those into a court accepted monitoring plan. So they're wells that are owned by the district but are prescribed to be monitored by the water master in the monitoring and maintenance plan.
Thank you.
And just to back, John, these are the 4 wells, the Fort Ord 10 and 9, deep and shallow. I call them 4 monitoring locations, but are they separate wells? Are they 4 separate wells?
They are 4 separate wells.
Okay.
Now, the other item was, the last couple of years, PFAS, which is kind of collectively the 2 types of perfluorooctane sulfonic acid, PFOS and PFOA, have been kind of the emerging concern area for the regulators. And on January 4th, CalAm informed the jurisdictions that there had been very trace amounts detected in the production wells. So if you were to look on Exhibit 4A again in the green, kind of smack dab in the middle, you'll find Playa, Luzerne, and Ord Grove, almost all 3 in a line, which had very low levels of detection. So this is just brought to you as information. There's no action that's required. Collectively, they're below the EPA standards. But nevertheless, as people's attention is shifting to the PFASs, this is the first known detection that we've seen here locally.
Is PFAS more of a military source?
Well, there's some question, it was found in fire retardants and things like that, which no doubt Fort Ord probably utilized. But when you look at the 3 production wells, they're all west of General Jim Moore in relatively populated areas. So it's not like there was any Fort Ord activities that we can put a finger on that are in proximity to these wells. So, obviously it probably traveled there, but who really knows? We really don't know. But as I said, it's an emerging concern and new regulations are being formed, and this was the first detection. And those are production wells that, raw water wells that go into the system for drinking.
I'm gonna go back a little bit if I can to the Sentinel wells and with the long screen. Is there a way to can record or monitor data at different points in the depths? So that can you get a shallow measurement and a deep measurement also there?
Yeah, I can get you this reference, George, or Director Riley. The wells were drilled, and they were first idealized as the nested monitor wells in about 4 different zones, but the price came back preventative. So the water master went back with this change in design with the long screens. They actually were just supposed to be induction tubes for as it was envisioned, and then you would be able to measure the salinity of the water and the sediment, and you'd be able to see if there was changing shapes of the resistivity curves when you induction logged these wells. However, when they were installed, they were also installed with screens that probably could add some type of water quality sampling to that. They have been sampled in the past when they were induction logged, and this was in 2017. If you remember, it was the last time there was kind of a seawater intrusion scare, and it was with the water quality samples from the Sentinel wells, and they were being sampled with a methodology that was called a bomb or a thief sampler, where you would lower an empty tube that a vacuum had been applied to it down to the level that you wanted to take the sample, and you would pull on a wire, and it would release the suction in the tube, and it would fill the sampler from that section of the well. And so we would get a shallow sample and a deep sample, and we were tracking those samples. But then when we went through and looked at there was some work done by Martin Feeney in 2017, which this is one of the items we're going to be discussing tomorrow at the experts panel. And there was some work done that showed that the ambient water in the wells, because the screens were so long, were mixing and weren't indicative of the induction logging that was being completed to track the salinity changes in the water and the sediment. And that was done through lowering some conductivity probes in the wells and seeing that there was actually columnar mixing of the samples. So while they were being taken from shallow and deep, they were not representative of the groundwater, it was decided, that was outside of the well.
Well, I just at this point, I think my question is, if a Fort Ord well shallow is showing evidence, and 9 also, Fort Ord well 9, and the assumption is it's coming from the northeast, kind of, then the Sentinel wells at the coast become pretty critical in determining, is it coming from the northeast only, or is it mixing somehow with seawater intrusion from the ocean? And it seems to me those Sentinel wells are in a position to help measure those differences if possible. I'm not looking for an answer today. It'll be the direction I'm going when we meet as a water master group later this week.
Yeah, and I'll dig up that reference that kind of there's a good summary document that tracks the kind of the lifetime of these wells.
And this becomes pretty important, I think, because I mean the steps we take in the near term and the view in the long term. This Seaside, the groundwater basin, is just a critical piece of our infrastructure for water supply. And if there is a threat of seawater intrusion, and I know it's a slow evolving process regardless, but if it's a relentless process, then we got some problems ahead of us. And I'm just concerned about how we look at the priority we give to the seawater groundwater basin, Seaside groundwater basin, because in my kind of vision, I see it as kind of a 50-year resource. But if it's maybe only a 10-year resource, then we may have to rethink some of our long distance thinking. And that's the only thing I'm trying to get to at some point. I don't have any more than questions right now. Anyway, that's kind of where I'm thinking.
And if I may, Director Riley, the one other piece of information I was going to offer about this is that in I think it was 2015, there was a number of years that the city of Seaside was purchasing water from Marina Coast and was not pumping their wells, which are the only wells that are pumping in the shallow zone of the Seaside Basin. They since in 2017, around that time, stopped buying water from Marina Coast and resumed pumping. Since that has happened, the water levels have been falling, and we're now detecting the salinity. There is a plan through the water swap that those wells are not going to pump anymore, and they're going to receive the highly treated water from the plant and water the golf courses. So just offer that as information for the future plans of pumping in that area of the basin.
Thank you, John. And that is it for
Sorry, I want to go back just to say something to respond to Karen. We are not going to be making a decision tomorrow on the lawsuit. This is just the first time that the board will be hearing this. So it's a potential lawsuit sort of finding that we'll have just information on. So there won't be any kind of a report back out. But I want to just clarify that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't, let's see. Oh, if there were, well, let's see, just at the shallow wells, if there are, if the chloride numbers become a little more problematic, John or Dave, do you see anything that could be done other than just increased monitoring? I mean, because it seems to me you have to reduce pumping or get water, and that's the only two options.
Yeah. That's exactly it. And there is a plan in that's all laid out that basically does require reduction in pumping as a tool to combat seawater intrusion.
And that's an action that is, I think, within the jurisdiction of the water master.
That is correct.
What are that? It's not a water management district action. You may be partners in whatever happens, but it's not the decision of the district.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I have no more in pursuit of these subjects. I'll just ask the public again, was there anything anybody wanted to add or ask? And otherwise, we will be closing shop.
Looks like there's no raised hands. Do we want to give it a minute or two?
Nope, I'll let them, I'll take a minute just to say, anything more from committee members on any of these subjects?
Not I.
Okay. All right, well, no, thank you, Joelle. Thank you, everybody. We will adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
That was easy.
That was good. So Dave, enjoy yourself.
All right. Bye now.
Happy birthday again.
Happy birthday.
Bye-bye.
Bye.